Hey there. Oh, it is good times here at Occupy Democrats when we have a breaking story where I get to start out by saying Donald Trump loses again. Yes, that just warms my heart. And if it would warm your heart to have that guy out of the White House, just subscribe to the channel. I'm going to show you this breaking story in just a few moments, but holy smokes, is it fun when Donald Trump is just trying to ram everything he's lived for his whole life right down the throat of the American people, when the judicial system and the three branches of government actually stop him. And for the most part, except for, of course, the overinflated, tilted Supreme Court, the judicial branch has been doing a pretty good job, although Donald Trump and his main sycophants, Caroline Leavitt, Pam Bondi, and Stephen Miller, simply hate them for it. Remember when Stephen Miller said this?
The judge issued his unlawful order without even receiving any information on this terrorist organization. The president is operating at the apex of his authority when you are dealing with questions of invasion and questions of alien enemy infiltration, as well as the expulsion of terrorist illegal aliens from the country.
Yeah, actually, Stephen, they do, whether you like it or not. And Caroline Leavitt, who's just a spokesperson, lying lips herself, said this.
And I would just like to point out that the judge in this case is essentially trying to say that the president doesn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists from our American soil. This judge does not have that authority.
But sometimes the bestest part is when our own damn Attorney General, Pam Bondi Blondie from Florida, actually says this legally.
You've got a local district court judge now who is saying that he can stop the president from enforcing his powers under Article 2 to protect the American people.
Well, that's it. He's attempting to meddle in national security and foreign affairs, and he can't do it. What he's done is an intrusion on the president's authority, thinks he can control foreign policy for the entire country.
Yeah, Pam, that's right. It's called three branches of government, checks and balances. But always, in the end, Donald himself winds up saying this.
These judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years.
Yes, Donald, just so you know, that's why we have different levels of courts. That's why you can appeal and go from a local to a circuit to a state to a district, to a federal, to the Ninth Circuit, to the Supreme Court. That's why you get to do that. But you have to go through the system. It's called due process and checks and balances. And in this breaking story, as much as Donald Trump is trying to gerrymander, rig, steal the midterm elections, guess what just happened? He just got kicked in the teeth again, and it's awesome. Check this breaking story out.
Trump admin hit with stinging defeat in midterm rigging scheme. A federal judge handed President Donald Trump's administration another stinging defeat in its bid to rig the 2026 midterm elections, according to a new report. For months, Trump's Department of Justice has been trying to access state voter rolls under the guise of inspecting them for fraud. Some democratically controlled states have pushed back and sued the administration, while Republican-led states appeared quick to comply with the spurious demand. On Thursday, a federal judge in California, David O. Carter, ruled that the administration was prohibited from accessing the state's voter rolls, the Washington Post reported. He also called into question the motives behind the administration's attempt. The centralization of this information by the federal government would have a chilling effect on voter registration, which would inevitably lead to decreasing voter turnout as voters fear that their information is being used for some inappropriate or unlawful purpose, Carter wrote in his decision. This risk threatens the right to vote, which is the cornerstone of American democracy, he added. Carter's decision comes at a time when the Trump administration appears to be scrambling for ways to influence the results of the 2026 midterm election. Trump has even floated the idea of canceling the election on more than one occasion. Last year, Trump pressured several Republican-controlled states to change their election maps to favor Republicans. The map passed in Texas was challenged by voting rights groups, but the Supreme Court ultimately allowed the state to use its new map in the upcoming election.
Oh, there is no doubt that between now and November, this is going to wind up at the Supreme Court. And Brett Kavanaugh and Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett and Alito and Thomas are all going to have to face the music as to whether or not they want to know and be known as the Supreme Court that literally ended democracy. Because if this were allowed to go through, it would end democracy. And Trump, who said it on the campaign trail, would be right. You would never have to or get to vote again. You guys like and share the video, and holy smokes, stay frosty.